Hello everyone and welcome back to Chris Aquatics. Now in today's video I'm going to be doing another in-depth tour. As I saw you guys really enjoyed how I did the tour on all of my tanks, I figured I'd focus more on the rack in this video as I've done some more improvements to it, as you can see. So there's new tanks. We've got two different tanks and we've got a new light that I'm going to be showing you guys in this video. But if you guys do enjoy the video, feel free to leave a comment down below and leave a like. I'd really appreciate that. And if you enjoy it, feel free to subscribe. I always post, I do it every couple of days. Hopefully I try to get one in every week, sometimes one more possibly. So I hope you guys enjoy my content. Feel free to leave your opinions down below and we'll get into the video. Now for anyone curious, of course I can put tanks on the very bottom level. I have chosen not to, as where everything is, all my cords and stuff to access lights and stuff is all back there. So until I actually move out of where I am at the moment to have space to be able to organize it properly, I can't really put tanks down there. Also my dog comes in my room a lot, so it'll be a bit of a hassle. So that's the main reasons why there's no tanks at the bottom level, just so that you guys know. But I do have tanks on the other three. Could technically put one on the top too, but that's just storage. So yeah, let's get in depth from the bottom level upwards. Now for anyone that's seen the first video, I kind of spoke about these tanks, but this is more in depth, I would say. So out of the 3 shrimp tanks I have down here, I started all of them at the same time. I started with 10 snowball shrimp, 5 Bloody Mary, and 20 yellows. So looking at the snowball tank first, there's a lot more than 10 in here. You can see bit of brown algae on the front of the glass that I need to remove. I didn't even notice that. I've also got fry of just Medaka in here. They seem to be in all my tanks at this point. You can see how many shrimp are actually in here. So since then I've also changed out the sponge filter on this tank to this type because I prefer it over the other ones. I am thinking to do it to all of my tanks. I have like 3 more of this type left. Just with this one, it's a lot more quieter, and I have it on this tank and that one as well. With these, it's the bubbles, and obviously it makes a little bit more noise, so it can be a bit more loud. But so I do prefer this type of sponge. I think I've been getting them for like $8 on clearance at my local pet store that's closing down, so I took advantage of it and grabbed as many as I could. Now the substrate in these shrimp tanks, if it would focus, is just a light layer of, come on focus for me, it's a light layer of just some regular rocks. I think this is from the pet shop as well. It was very cheap. This like chunk of wood did have that type of Physidens moss on it, but it kind of all came off. I do have it in a container. I will show you. I do have a full container of it that I need to put in another tank, which is going to go right here. That's not going to focus, but there is that type of Physidens on this, there you go, on this mesh. And there's also like sub-Wassertang and like Java throughout the tank. A couple of like, I think Boost Moss might be in here as well. It's a bit of everything, but like I said, I'm trying to like get rid of all that stuff. This tank has the sponge filter on it, which I'm not a big fan of. They take up a lot of space, so I want to try to just move everything to this type because it's a lot less space. But yeah, this tank's fairly simple. And for anyone curious, this is lava rock. It's not going to focus if I go that close, but that's lava rock. And the light on this is a cheap light off of eBay. I think it was like $30-40, and it's a 60 centimeter light. Across the span of the tanks, probably like 70 centimeters, a bit more, so it doesn't completely cover it, but it lights everything up, which works for me. So that's this tank basically. I also have like pond snails in here. I'm trying to get rid of them, but it's kind of hard. Now moving on to the yellow tank. Also, one last thing about the Bloody Marys. I'd say that I probably have close to 150, maybe 200 in here. You can see a lot of the babies, so I'd say there's a fair few in this tank, but that's just a guess. I have no clue. Now moving on to the yellow tank, I sort of did a large culling of this colony. So now there's not as many as there was, but the ones I do have are a lot nicer in color. So there's a new batch of babies that are on the sponge. Sadly, I have pets and their hair gets in all of my tanks and it sucks. You'll see it in my videos and it's like, I always try to remove as much of it as possible, but there's always some and it sucks. This tank, however, I've done a better job at removing the subwater tang and the Java moss, sorry. So you can sort of see I've almost purged it. We have this single type of Physidins right here. We have a small piece of Borbitis. That's a lump of subwater tang that I need to get to. This here was like different, like, this was like, I think, rhizomes of Boost that didn't look like they were going to do any well, but I put them in here to see what happens. And it's been like a week, so we'll find out. And I'll let you guys know. There's a bit of water on the front. This at the back, I think, is Trident Fern as well. And then there's just the basic sponge filter. And that right there has a bit of Java moss on it as well, along with all these tanks also having red root floaters. So this tank's pretty self-explanatory. It's not really doing too much to, like, doing well enough to show crazy amounts right now, but yeah. Now this level has done very well. It's also received a major upgrade. So I've ended up moving the 2 foot from being centered to being on the left. This little setup was on the left as well, with another setup that was on the right. That setup is now on my desk. So that one's sitting there. And I have the 2 foot and a Kmart Tank on this level now. I'll get to that one second, but we'll start with this one first. So the major upgrade I ended up doing was a 60 centimeter light that was on this tank is now on these 2 tanks, and I have a WRGB2 Slim 6 centimeter on this as well. My light settings will be down in the description if you're interested. I'll have those down there and I'll let you guys know what they are. Now starting from the top section, I don't have any plants growing out of this tank. I do have red root in the top there, and I do have the sponge that was in the snowball tank in this tank just on higher flow. Now if anyone's curious how I have all these tanks running, I have them all on one big air pump. I will show you guys at the end of the video if you're interested, but it's all on one big air pump controlling every single tank and only one connection. So it's great for me. I still have space to set up, I think, one more tank. I'll have to check. Yeah, I think one more tank. But yeah, it's been really great for me to upgrade to that so I can have more going at once, which is awesome. Now starting from the right side, I'll go through the plants. This one I just got and I don't really know what it is. It only has started growing, so under the light I will find out hopefully what it actually is. But if you guys know, let me know. This one here is Bacopa. I have a really odd looking shrimp in this tank. So it's kind of like some sort of a willy, but it's like orange and yellow. So this has got that shrimp, and it's also got my orange shrimp in here as well. So it kind of looks red on the camera, but that is orange. So yeah, my super reds also look red on the camera. Kind of, but more orange too. It's a bit odd. Anyway, this big bushy plant is Ambulia. I started with one stem and it's turned into a forest, so I'm gonna have to start trimming this off soon. There is Hygrophila polysperma sticking out, so if I move the red root you can see it. This one right here. It's got some really nice color on it at the moment, which is really nice. I have Cryptonuri Rosen Maiden. I have 2 of those at the moment. I'm really hoping it's like spreads out the whole base. Now that I have the new light, I only set that light up today. I should see some new change in growth, which will be awesome. This is Liliopus, however you say it. I have a good fair few of that. I've only planted the front today, but I planted the back more recent, so it looks a bit more like it's started to fill in as opposed to the front. This little stubby plant is Pogo Stem and Hell Fairy. I don't really know what happened with it. I received it pretty rough, so it might just be bouncing back from the base. What it kind of looks like is this one right here. That's what it's supposed to look like, that little one right there. It's kind of hidden, but it hasn't really done too well. So there's 2 of them, one there and one sort of right in between it, kind of hidden. There's 2 in there. Now going along the left side, there's an Aura Crypt. It took a beating, so it's got new leaves starting to shoot out, which is awesome. I also have a mixture of Wendy Green and Brown in this tank. So there's a mixture of those throughout. Crypt, Wendy Green and Brown, I should say, if you guys don't know. Now this is Anubias nana, and then there's also Anubias pinto. This is like a more variegated leaf, but it's kind of battered with algae. And then this is lower variegation. You can kind of see the variegation here, but if you're looking for something like it, it's kind of like this plant right here. This one's doing a lot better. But this one I bought with a bit lower variegation. As you can see, it's like kind of speckled white. Now there's a lot of peanut taffeta in here. I have received a bunch yesterday that I just recently put in, so that's what's filling out this section. But I do have a lot of that in here at the moment. I have some pieces of bulbitis mixed in, so there's one there and there's a couple throughout the back, kind of hidden. You sort of see it. Kind of got taken over by peanut taffeta, but you can kind of see it. There is, I'll see if I can show you on the side, there you go. So I'm fairly sure the back is the Rotalo rotundifolio. There's probably like 30 or 40 stems back there. You guys would have seen that in the setup video for this tank. There's also CO2 being run into this tank. It's very faint. You might be able to see the bubbles at the back. There you go. It's kind of hidden very well, but you can see the tubes. It's a stainless steel one running in here. So this tank's running on CO2 mixed with this tank. They're both in the same system. It's the CO2 art regulator. I'll leave a link to that also down in the description down below. Along the wood, I do have some no ID roosters. They haven't really got big enough on the leaves side to be able to ID them, but I do have one there. And then there's a couple in the gaps that are kind of starting to pop out. Kind of got covered at one point, but you can sort of see. Now there's also, it's a bit hard to spot it, but there's brownie ghost in there somewhere. It's this one right here. And my finger is, that's brownie ghost. But I do have that in here. It's just sort of like in that gap. It's a bit hard to spot. And I do have a bunch of fern in here. So there's like trident fern sort of like scattered across this section. This stem here, I received a bit rough, so I'm hoping I can grow more, but it's purple bacopa, if anyone was curious. I do have some other stems sort of popping out at the back. So there's one right there, you can sort of see it. That's a type of Ladwigia. I forgot which one it is, so I need to let it grow more before I can ID it. But I do have that as well. If you're curious of what fish are in here, I have a mixture of the blue Stardust Medaka and some orange, sort of like, some of them are like orange Medaka, like that one, and some of them are like this one that are like orange tiger with the black markings. And then I also have a couple sort of like, I think they put like 5 centimeter albino bristlenose, along with 7 super reds in this tank. The cave is for the male. Doesn't really look that great, but it's for the male, so I'm more than happy to leave it in there. But yeah, this tank isn't exactly too high tech. It does only have a sponge filter, so it doesn't have some crazy filter on it. But I like it, and I think that once this all grows in, it's going to look really nice. Now this tank you guys have not seen yet, as I only recently set this up. I ended up using a cycled filter, the sponges cycled from this tank, and then I used full tank water from my big tank over there to quickly cycle this like basically instantly, I guess you could call it. And then I used sand as the base, and I set this tank up. So the hardscape is kind of like, this section's kind of just trying to cut the tank in half. Other than that, there is a bit of moss. I don't even know what moss that is. I have not been able to ID it. And then there's a mixture of, I'm fairly sure that is Windelove Java fern. It could be, I think. But this is my Pygmy Corys tank. So I ended up getting 6 Pygmy Corys. You can sort of see them at the back over there. So there's 6 of those. And I have a single red cherry cull in here. So we have Dragonstone as the main scape that kind of just wraps around to this side. There's a piece of Bucephalandra, no ID on that one. I haven't been able to ID that, but I have tons of it. I have a piece of Peanut Feeder, and then I have a 2 Anubias. I think it's Nana. It could be Nana Petite, but I think it's Nana. I have a small piece of Bulbitis, along with some Narrowleaf Java Fern. That one came out, so I need to put that back. But yeah, that kind of just like, kind of just like a basic sort of tank. Now moving on to the last level of the rack, I have two 20-liter tanks, both the same dimensions as these ones. So technically I have 6 tanks of that dimensions, so 6 20-liter tanks, and then the 2 foot on this stand. And this tank on the left, I have my Caridina shrimp. Now during this time when I haven't fed them and they're kind of just chilling, I tried them with an algae wafer, but they're not interested. They're kind of all just chill. So if I can focus the camera, you can sort of see. There's a couple around here. I have a mixture of blue bolts, sort of blue steels, and then I have some like black kind of galaxy black tiger kind of vibes in here. There's also sort of like blue bolt Missouri kind of vibes in here as well. And like sort of shadow panda as well. It's all like kind of just like different types of breeds that are all mixed into one, so I don't really have like a specific shrimp that's in here. They all look sort of different to one another. But I do have, I think, around 50 in here, if you'd believe it. They all do like to hide during the, like they normally come out a lot more at nighttime for me, I've realized. But this tank's fairly simple, so there's a big piece of boost on rock. That's all one type of boost right there. This is all flame moss right here. And then there's crypt, I think that's Wenty green. And then there's an Agazu sword in that side. The sponge in here, as you can see, is the same I have in the other 2 tanks. This one's a lot more cycled than the other 2, as you can see with the green on the top. There's my Missouri female. I'm expecting her to drop eggs or drop shrimplets in like a couple of days, to be honest, because it's been over a month since she got buried. So it should be really interesting seeing that in the next coming days. But yeah, this tank's fairly simple. I don't really like to touch it too much as I don't want to throw it off, and it's taken a while for this to cycle for them to be stable, so I don't really mess with it. I just leave it here. But yeah, this is the left side. Now my final tank on the rack at the moment, you wouldn't believe it, but it's my favorite. So this is housing red neon blue eyes, or Luminatus, or Pseudomogul Luminatus. Now I have a male and 2 females. The 2 females are right there, and then the male's the one that just dashed away. The male has really nice colors. It's a bit hard to show because they always hide behind the mop. You can see the male at the back. So he flares up and it shows a lot more color, but I'm really excited to breed these, so I have my own sort of setup for them to breed. So I'm currently trying to condition them on bloodworms, which I just fed, and they've eaten some but not all, so I'm hoping they pick that off, otherwise I'll have to water change. And bug buffet. So I'm hoping that I can get these guys to spawn in the spawning mop that I made myself. So this was $2.50 from Kmart, and then I basically got a stick and I cut these into like I think 30 strands, and I put it in half, and then I tied off the top, and then I tied it to a stick, which is in the gap of the, like there's a little gap. See on this one here, there's like a gap. So that's what I've done with here, and I'm hoping that they use it as a spawning mop. I just added it today, so I don't know if it's gonna work yet, but I'm fairly sure it should. But these are probably my favorite fish I've ever had. It has taken me a while to get these, mainly for the price point. They have been sort of available, but they do get sold out pretty quickly. I got this trio, 2 females and a male, for $50. So I'm hoping that I can breed them and I can fill all my tanks with them, as that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have all the 2 main tanks with just a big colony of these in each, but I didn't have anywhere near enough money to buy that many, so I'm gonna try breeding my own. If I get any luck, I will make a full video out of it. I've already started to film different parts just in case, so I'm hoping it goes well. But it's a pretty simple setup. It's a completely open tank, nothing in it but the sponge. Just a small sponge that's already been cycled, and I did the same thing. I used tank water from a different tank for this. But I'll make sure to keep you guys in the loop of how these guys are going. I'm really excited to hopefully get some eggs soon. I should also mention that this is currently my fry holding tank for my Medaka, so there is a lot of fry in here. I'd probably estimate 50 to 100, and I've also been putting all the eggs on the sponge filter, so you can kind of see the eyes. But yeah guys, this is basically the entire rack. This is probably the most efficient way that I could store my tanks. Each rack, I'm fairly sure it said it could hold 150 kilograms, so that's more than enough for most tanks. I doubt you'd be able to overload it. However, just some quick things to mention. You can definitely see in the water level here, you can like just with my fingers for like reference, if I glide this down, there's a difference. It's quite major. The tank is 100% on an incline going in towards the middle. Sort of worrisome, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. I don't think that I would worry about it as much. It hasn't become too apparent on this one either, but I'm thinking this is probably close to 100 kilograms and this is nowhere near that, so I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. If you guys have had any bad experiences, please let me know, because I don't want to have a bad experience of my own. It would very much suck. But yeah, everyone, I thought you guys would enjoy me going a bit in depth into my rack, how I've got it set up, and how I have everything going. For anyone that's curious, I do plan on setting up more racks in the future, but I haven't decided what I'm going to do with them yet. I was thinking about 3-foots, but I do need to move before I can do that. So I think I'm capped at how many tanks I can hold at the moment, as all of my space is taken up, but I will try to fit as much content into what I have at the moment and try to improve on my tanks, because there's always room for improvement. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and feel free to leave any of your suggestions, as I'm always open to that, and I do like when you guys give me ideas. I do most of the time agree with you, and it's like, oh, I didn't see that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you later. Bye bye.